We are all born, experience life, and eventually die. What comes before us and after us is a mystery that we may never know or understand. This lack of scientific knowledge makes it difficult to determine our purpose for being here on Earth. We aren't sure where we come from and what lies ahead, so how can we possibly comprehend why human life exists? Herein lies the question: if we don't have a clear grasp of our origin and our goals, how do we recognize how meaningful or significant any action that is taken may be? This mysteriousness behind both, 1, where humanity has come from, and 2, what it will manifest into, allows us to ponder one of life's greatest queries. What is the meaning of life? From the dawn of civilization, humanity has struggled to comprehend and accept the unknown. We have sought solace in different religious doctrines that attempt to mitigate our fear around what happens when this life ends. Our lives on Earth are finite but contain eternal implications. Whatever we do will determine where and how we spend eternity afterwards. For some, the purpose of life is rooted in the love shared with family, friends, and romantic partners. Others might think existence alone gives our lives meaning. Nihilism as a belief system. So what is nihilism? Nihilism is a belief that nothing in the world has objective meaning, purpose, or value. It is often associated with existentialism, a philosophical movement that emphasizes individual freedom and choice, and the inherent meaninglessness of life. Nihilism is not just the belief that life is meaningless, it is also the belief that because life is meaningless, everything is permissible. It is the rejection of belief in God, morality, and the traditional values of society. This can be a dangerous belief to have because it can lead to people feeling like they can do whatever they want without consequences. Of course, this isn't true. There are still natural consequences for our actions, even if they don't have any objective meaning. For example, if you believe that nothing you do matters, you might be more likely to engage in risky behavior like drug use or unprotected sex. Or, you might be less likely to work hard at your job or study for exams because you see no point in it. While nihilism can be liberating in some ways, it can help us let go of things that don't matter and focus on what does. One of the key aspects of nihilism is the rejection of traditional morality and values. Many philosophers have argued that traditional morality is arbitrary and imposed by society rather than based on objective truth. Nihilism instead advocates for the creation of one's own values, based on personal experience and understanding. This can be seen as a form of individual freedom and self-determination. Additionally, nihilism forces individuals to confront the reality of their own mortality and the fleeting nature of existence. This can lead to a heightened appreciation of the present moment and a greater sense of personal responsibility for one's actions. Rather than relying on traditional beliefs and values to guide one's actions, individuals must rely on their own understanding and experience. It's also important to note that nihilism doesn't necessarily imply that life is meaningless, but it implies that life has no inherent or objective meaning. It is not a passive acceptance of the world as it is, but rather a call to action to create meaning and values in our own lives and in the world. Nihilism also challenges traditional religious beliefs about the purpose of life. Many religions propose that life on earth is a mere prelude to an afterlife, where the soul is judged and sent to heaven or hell. Nihilism rejects this idea and suggests that this life is all we have and thus the value of this life is of the utmost importance. It's worth noting that nihilism is not a call to despair or apathy, but rather a call to embrace the freedom and responsibility that come with the rejection of traditional beliefs and values. It's a call to live authentically and to find meaning in life through our own experiences and understanding. Nihilism versus God's plan. The question of whether the universe and life are the result of a divine plan or the result of random chance has been debated for centuries. However, there is overwhelming evidence that points towards the latter. The concept of a divine plan suggests that the universe and life have a specific purpose or meaning determined by a higher power. However, the scientific evidence does not support this notion. The laws of physics and the principles of evolution, for example, can fully explain the origins and development of the universe and life without the need for a divine plan. The Big Bang Theory, which is widely accepted by the scientific community, explains the origins of the universe as a result of a massive explosion that occurred approximately 13.8 billion years ago. The laws of physics, specifically gravity and the laws of thermodynamics, can fully explain the expansion and evolution of the universe from that singular event. Similarly, the theory of evolution, which is supported by a vast amount of scientific evidence, explains the development of life on Earth as the result of natural selection and genetic variation. This process, which occurs over millions of years, can fully explain the diversity and complexity of life on Earth without the need for a divine plan. Additionally, the concept of a divine plan implies a level of predictability and certainty in the universe, but the scientific evidence suggests otherwise. The laws of physics, including the laws of quantum mechanics, demonstrate that the universe is inherently unpredictable and uncertain. The concept of probability and randomness is fundamental to our understanding of the universe. The laws of quantum mechanics, which govern the behavior of subatomic particles, demonstrate that the universe is inherently unpredictable and uncertain through the phenomenon of quantum uncertainty. According to the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, it is impossible to simultaneously know both the position and momentum of a subatomic particle with perfect precision. This means that the more precisely the position of a particle is known, the less precisely its momentum can be known, and vice versa. This principle applies to all subatomic particles and is a fundamental aspect of the universe, which means that the universe is inherently unpredictable and uncertain at a fundamental level. Additionally, the laws of quantum mechanics also demonstrate that the behavior of subatomic particles is inherently probabilistic, further adding to the unpredictability and uncertainty of the universe. Furthermore, many of the arguments that have been put forth to support the concept of a divine plan, such as the argument from design, have been debunked by scientific evidence and logical reasoning. The overwhelming evidence from fields such as physics, chemistry, biology, and astronomy support the idea that the universe and life are the result of random chance and natural processes, not a divine plan. The laws of physics, the principles of evolution, and the concept of probability and randomness can fully explain the origins and development of the universe and life without the need for a higher power. Becoming a critical thinker about what you believe and why you believe it. As we evolve and start to question our long-held values, an empty space is created in place of what was once familiar. This can be a highly insightful period as you come into contact with new ideas, garner fresh experiences, and develop your own worldview. It's here where the roots are laid for your personal belief system, independent from that which has been espoused by previous generations. It all starts with a single inquiry: why? Why does this three-letter, monosyllabic word have the power to throw everything that serves as our foundation into doubt and uncertainty, making us feel like we are being dragged down by quicksand? Could it be that what we thought was true about our lives is not actually so? Take a brief moment to consider your core values and ask yourself this simple query: why? What is the origin of these beliefs and from whom did you learn them? Pursue that question further until there are no more answers. At some point, all religions throughout history, as well as scientific discoveries, will become irrelevant. And that's at the root of nihilists' beliefs. That said, it's important not to confuse nihilism with pessimism. While both are similar in outlook on life, they differ significantly in principle. Pessimists accept that bad will always triumph over good, seeing only a downward trajectory for humanity, harping on all negative aspects of our existence until their worst fears become reality. On the other hand, nihilist beliefs pertain more towards a lack of meaning or purpose within this world we inhabit. What sets pessimists and nihilists apart is their outlook on the world. While pessimists believe that there exists goodness in this world, they simply don't trust humans to bring it into fruition, whereas nihilistic mindsets disregard any notions of good or evil existing at all. For them, nothing has value or meaning within our existence. Humanity established the foundations of morality, creating terms such as good and bad. Consider a glass of water, for example. An optimist may perceive it to be half full, pessimists see it as being half empty. However, nihilists advise throwing away the entire glass because what does its fullness or emptiness matter in reality? It's all irrelevant. Regardless, our eventual fate remains indifferent. Death itself will greet us eventually. Nihilism is regularly juxtaposed with other outlooks such as cynicism and apathy, but they are all individually distinct. Incorrectly classifying your views on these perspectives can be more intricate than one might anticipate. Cynics accept that human beings always act from self-interest. They don't think anyone's motivations could ever come from a truly benevolent place. Cynics believe that we humans are only in competition for our own benefit and lack any faith in the species, whereas nihilists take this further by asserting that nothing exists outside of us, no good or evil. This idea speaks to a major difference between them. While cynics still suggest there is good out there somewhere, just not amongst people, nihilists reject such an outlook altogether. Unlike many others, they don't have a black and white view of people. They recognize that qualities such as good and evil are subjective rather than absolute. Apathetic individuals aren't necessarily bad. Instead, they just lack motivation or concern for the greater meaning in life. On the flip side, nihilists reject the idea of an underlying purpose to existence and consequently deny any notion of true significance in their lives. Thinking about nihilism sparks a paradox. If you believe in nothing, then saying that nothing is something to believe in defeats the purpose of believing in nothing at all. Plus, if there's now an existing belief, nihilism doesn't exist anymore since it entails no conviction whatsoever. Nihilism takes on a unique shape among other philosophical concepts as its origin lies within literature before becoming part of philosophy itself. Nihilism has multiple interpretations due to it being expressed in several ways. As such, there are a variety of different types and categories of nihilism which have been developed along the way. Political nihilists believe that humanity can only progress as a species if all political, social, and religious standards are eradicated. Moving on to ethical nihilism, this stance forgoes the notion of absolute moral values. This concept implies that what is perceived as good or bad only holds meaning according to society, a belief from which true individual freedom can be attained if we are willing to ignore it. Existential nihilism adds another layer by further implying that life holds nothing of value and lacks any sort of grand purpose or fundamental meaning. All in all, these two ideas combined open up an alternative path where there may no longer exist limitations on our decisions and actions. We become free to do whatever we want. Nihilism is about recognizing that laws, doctrines, and even social moral codes can become impediments to individual autonomy. If everything isn't possible for us, then are we really free? Or have we inadvertently placed a form of mental imprisonment on ourselves with no clear purpose? Consider this prospect for a moment. If life was indeed insignificant and all our exertions held no importance, then the accomplishments of science, technology breakthroughs such as space exploration and campaigns for human rights would be in vain. Take into account how far we have progressed thus far and think about that everything might amount to nothingness overall. It is an unsettling thought which brings into question the meaning of it all. Friedrich Nietzsche, proponent and critic of nihilism. While few philosophers would claim to be nihilists, nihilism is most often associated with Friedrich Nietzsche, who argued that its corrosive effects would eventually destroy all moral, religious, and metaphysical convictions and precipitate the greatest crisis in human history. In the 20th century, nihilistic themes, epistemological failure, value destruction, and cosmic purposelessness have preoccupied artists, social critics, and philosophers. Mid-century, for example, the existentialists helped popularize tenets of nihilism in their attempts to blunt its destructive potential. By the end of the century, existential despair as a response to nihilism gave way to an attitude of indifference, often associated with anti-foundationalism. Although it may seem like all the joyous and sorrowful moments that we experience in life are for naught, Friedrich Nietzsche's enigmatic philosophy has taught us to simply laugh at this chaos. He proposed a radical perspective on nihilism. Instead of regarding it as an obligation to understand reality, he advanced that there is no established structure other than what we make ourselves, thereby encouraging us to create our own purpose in life. He famously stated, "Every belief and idea taken to be true is necessarily false because there is no single reality." Nihilism exposes all interpretations of truth as mere products of the flawed mythology. In his words, God is dead, not in a literal sense, but rather symbolically referring to how traditional religious doctrines were being challenged by those who sought their own paths and meaning in life. Friedrich boldly defied the status quo, but simultaneously cautioned against nihilism. He contended that if left unchecked, nihilism would be detrimental to civilization and potentially lead it to ruinous destruction, a fate we can observe in many collapsed societies throughout history. To prevent this disastrous outcome from occurring again, Friedrich encouraged people to reject nihilistic ideologies and instead embrace hope for a better future. Ancient customs, beliefs and conventions, spiritual systems and economic structures collapse over time. He believed that, if we put forth the effort to break through the destruction of civilization and nihilism, we could lay out a new path for humanity. He proposed that in order to progress as a species, we must build an entirely fresh morality which eradicates any bias from before. Ultimately, his contention was that when you demolish your old abode, it should not leave you homeless and alone. As William Shakespeare famously noted, life is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury signifying nothing. If this is true, if there is no greater purpose for our lives, what should be our response? Shall we resign ourselves to hopelessness or despair? No. We must make the best out of what appears to be a bad situation. Life may have meaninglessness at its core, however, it does not mean that we cannot create joy in spite of it. You can create a meaningful life without having to have purpose. Here are 6 ideas to add meaning to your purposeless life. Creating meaning in your life is essential for living a fulfilling and satisfying existence. It can provide direction and a sense of accomplishment. Here are a few ways you can create meaning in your life. 1. Set goals. Setting goals gives you something to work towards and a sense of accomplishment when you reach them. Whether it's a personal or professional goal, having something to strive for can provide a sense of purpose. 2. Connect with others. Building strong relationships with family, friends, and loved ones can provide a sense of belonging and support. Being a part of a community or having a sense of connection to others can also provide meaning in your life. 3. Give back. Helping others can give you a sense of purpose and fulfillment. Whether it's volunteering your time, donating money to a cause, or simply being there for a friend in need, giving back can help create meaning in your life. 4. Explore your passions. Discovering what you are passionate about and pursuing it can provide a sense of purpose and fulfillment. Whether it's a hobby, a sport, or a creative pursuit, exploring your passions can bring meaning to your life. 5. practice gratitude. Being mindful of the things in your life that you are grateful for can help you appreciate what you have and find meaning in the present moment. 6. Reflect on your values. Understanding your values and aligning your actions with them can provide a sense of direction and purpose. It can help you to find what is truly important to you and make choices that align with your values. Ultimately, creating meaning in your life is a personal journey. It's about discovering what is important to you and taking steps to live a life that aligns with your values and passions. Remember, it's never too late to start creating meaning in your life.